Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Liz Reddy. Today's top stories. Leo Varadkar will tell his TDs entering government is a last resort when they meet this afternoon. Gardaí and Waterford say they're actively investigating an incident last Friday in which a young boy was hit by a pellet gun. Drivers are being warned that speed cameras are in operation in 900 locations, including 16 in Waterford. And in sport, it's a big night for both Chelsea and Manchester United in the race for Champions League football. Leo Varadkar will tell his TDs entering government is a last resort when they meet this afternoon. The Fine Gael leader says his party's gearing up for opposition. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
It's still less than a week since the final seats were filled in the general election and little progress has been made towards actually forming a government. Leo Varadkar isn't ruling Fine Gael out of that government, but says it will only go in as a last resort if the numbers don't work elsewhere. Mary Lou McDonald is continuing to try to form a left-wing government, but admits it's tricky to get the numbers.
We're all able to count, we're able to add and we're able to subtract. So I think we have recognised that the mathematics are tricky. But the bigger consideration is policy and ideas and delivery. So it's game on as far as I am concerned.
Most parties think we're heading towards a Fine Gael Fianna Fáil coalition that will follow a number of weeks of posturing, initial talks and then government negotiations, though both Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are split on the prospect of doing the Grand Coalition. Another move that may impact the numbers is that Social Democrats co-leader Catherine Murphy is considering running for Ceann Corda, which would reduce the party's number of TDs to 5 that could take part in a government. That election might be the only thing that's decided on Thursday when the new Dáil meets for the first time. Gardaí and Waterford say they're actively investigating an incident last Friday in which a young boy was hit by a pellet gun. The 11-year-old was walking home after school in the Carrickfearish area at 3:30pm with two other girls. He was hit on the temple and his mobile phone was shattered. He was brought to University Hospital Waterford where he was checked and discharged. The two girls escaped injury. A Garda spokesman told WLR News that two young boys aged around 10 had handed over two pellet guns to Gardaí. The Garda investigation into the incident is continuing. An independent councillor in Waterford says he believes that traveller accommodation is not distributed evenly throughout the city and county. Joe Kelly says he was the only councillor to vote against the recent decision to place an extra 7 caravan bays on a site in Carrickfearish and to put another site in the Waterford City West area in 2022.
What we need to do is build appropriate traveller accommodation, which I have no difficulty with, but spread it throughout the entire county so that everywhere has some traveller accommodation. We hear a lot about horses and space for horses, sulky racing, which are completely opposed, by the way, or even sulky riding, never mind racing. If sites were to be built 2 or 3 miles outside, say, the cities or villages or whatever, the travellers will have the space that they feel that they need and deserve. The settled people of cities and so on will feel that they're not being imposed on by a traveller lifestyle.
He says he knows that the Pave Point group, which aims to improve the human rights of Irish travellers, would disagree with him.
I believe they have a perspective for travellers and I believe they have to defend travellers' rights. But I don't hear a whole lot about travellers' responsibilities coming out of Pave Point. People are quite comfortable to live, I think, if the circumstances are right, where travellers can live their particular lifestyle and the settled community can live theirs. Sites in the cities have shown over the years not to work.
Drivers are being warned that speed camera vans are in operation in 900 new locations, including 16 in Waterford. Gardaí have relocated the cameras following a 3-year analysis of where crashes happen frequently. Up to 9 fatal collisions have occurred on the new routes in Waterford. They include locations on the N72, N25, R680 and R671 and brings the number of areas covered in Waterford up to 29. Superintendent Tony Lonergan says they're relocating the cameras to make the roads safer.
The data was telling us that if we were to be proactive, we needed to reshift our focus and we needed to be informed by what the data was actually telling us. It was highlighting, if you like, the high-risk area where we needed to be engaged on if we were going to, I suppose, meet our priority of making the roads safer for everybody to travel on.
The United Nations has begun an investigation into the state's treatment of a Magdalen laundry survivor. 70-year-old Elizabeth Coppin from County Kerry, who spent time in a laundry in Waterford, has brought a case to the UN Committee Against Torture, claiming she's been denied justice for over 20 years. Shane Beattie reports.
Originally from Listowel, Elizabeth Coppin was born to her unmarried mother in a mother and baby home in 1949 before being committed to an industrial school and then in her teenage years spending 4 years in laundries in Cork and Waterford. Elizabeth says the conditions were awful.
I was dragged into the padded cell. There was no bed in there, no mattress. While I was in there, I was at my lowest, and I knew that I had to do something, because I would die in there like a lot of the women.
She's taken her case to the UN Committee Against Torture, which has begun an investigation. It's the first case of its kind, which could have significant ramifications for how Ireland deals with historical abuse. Elizabeth, who now lives in England, says she wants the truth to come out.
And I want it all to come out, how they've treated us and still are treating us. Yes, the UN Committee did not join forces, or Ireland did not join forces with the UN until 2002 or thereabouts. But I have been arguing my case even after that with them.
The government's been told by the UN that it has launched an investigation. It has until May 20th to respond.
There are calls for stronger laws to protect people in the public eye following the death of Caroline Flack. The TV presenter was found dead at her home on Saturday after taking her own life. She'd been due to stand trial in March for allegedly assaulting her boyfriend Lewis Burton last year. Kim Buckley has this report.
We wanted to say that our hearts go out to her family and friends.
As Caroline herself recently posted, in a world where you can be anything, be kind.
Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby paid tribute to Caroline Flack on ITV's Dancing on Ice last night. The TV presenter was found dead at her London home on Saturday after taking her own life. A petition to introduce a law for better protections for those in the public eye has reached almost 230,000 signatures. Actress and friend Stephanie Davis is leading the campaign.
And what we need is to help each other grow and be better and stronger, not soul destroy someone, as the words of Caroline used, to the point that they feel like there is no way out and the only option is to end their life.
Love Island will have a special tribute to Caroline Flack when it airs tonight. The show, which she presented before she was charged with assault, was taken off the air for 2 days as a mark of respect. Mental health advocate Brezzi says the tragedy will be triggering for some.
Somebody who is at home, who's in a triggered state, who's distressed, who might be going through some of their own difficulties, this can be incredibly triggering and have immense societal impact.
Anyone in distress or feeling suicidal can call the Samaritans anytime on 116 123.
2020 marks a milestone and busy year for contact lens manufacturing plant Bausch & Lomb in Waterford. The global eye health company are celebrating 40 years in business here, growing their staff to over 1,400 currently. Construction's already underway to expand the facility on the industrial estate, which will give rise to a further 100 jobs. Bausch & Lomb are finalists in the Exporter of the Year category at the Waterford Business Awards. Site lead Mark Hennessy says they're delighted with the nomination, which adds to a busy and exciting year.
So there's a series of events that we will plan over the course of the year. The highlight of that, we're going to host a gala ball at the end of the year to celebrate that milestone. So that's one aspect of what we'll be doing this year. A new expansion that's underway. So work will continue with that. At the minute, I think there's about 100 construction jobs associated with the expansion. It's going to continue this year. We'll finish at the mid 2021. So recruitment for those roles will commence, I suppose, back end of this year into 2021. So that's, I suppose, a big focus for us this year is to finish that expansion and to get everything up and running.
WLR Sport.
With thanks to the Waterford Viking Marathon. Register now at waterfordvikingmarathon.com.
Very good afternoon, I'm Gavin, Whelan. Starting with soccer, and Sports Minister Shane Ross says he hopes his office's handling of the FAI's refinancing will be viewed as successful. The former Dublin Rathdown TD who lost his seat in the recent general election remains in the role until a new government is formed. In January, the government announced a multi-million euro refinancing package for the FAI after it was revealed the association were carrying debts of more than 60 million euro. Speaking this morning, the Minister says dealing with the Olympic Council scandal in 2016 had helped him prepare for the issues in the FAI.
You know, and I'd had a kind of pretty tough baptism dealing with Pat Hickey in the OCI in the first few months of my ministry, which wasn't really to do with sport. It was to do with how sport was administered, as was the FAI. It wasn't to do with the real sporting activity. And in both cases, you came across power being concentrated in the hand, in very, very small number of hands. And sport was what I didn't realise, I suppose, properly beforehand. It was a big business, and it is a big business.
It's understood Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola has told his players he won't be leaving because of their 2-year European ban. The club are appealing against the punishment which was handed down by UEFA for breaching their financial fair play rules. It's a big night for both Chelsea and Manchester United in the race for Champions League football. The Blues host United at Stamford Bridge this evening at 8 o'clock, looking to consolidate fourth place in the table. Udi Igalo could make his debut after his deadline day move to United, while Chelsea striker Tammy Abraham is set to have a late fitness test. Former Manchester United manager Alex Ferguson says he's deeply saddened by the passing of club legend Harry Gregg. The ex-United and Northern Ireland goalkeeper has died at the age of 87. He was often referred to as the hero of Munich after helping pull survivors from the wreckage of the 1958 air disaster in which 23 people died. Gaelic Games Laois and Westmeath meet in the quarter-finals of the Leinster Under-20 Football Championship this evening. Throw-in for that one in MW Hire No More Park is at 7:30. And in golf, Rory McIlroy had to settle for a share of 5th place in his first tournament since returning to the top of golf's world rankings. A 2-over-par final round meant he slipped out of contention and ended up 3 shots behind the winner Adam Scott. The Australian finished 2 strokes clear of the rest of the field. Sports news on WLR thanks to Waterford Viking Marathon.com.